Good afternoon and welcome to today's meeting for the Airport Authority, and I would like to call that meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, June 26th, 2024, and it's approximately 5:01 p.m. Excuse me. Madam Clerk, please.
Yes, certainly. Please state your name for the record. Member from the City of Colton.
Frank Navarro.
Member from the Cities of Loma Linda, are not currently here. Member from the County of San Bernardino, 3rd District. Dawn Rao. Member from the City of Highland.
Penny Lilburn with alternate Larry McKellen in the audience.
Thank you so much. And members from the City of San Bernardino.
Helen Tran.
Theodore Sanchez with our alternate in the audience, Mayor Pro Tem Charette.
Thank you. And also note for record, Member John Echevarria is also in the audience.
Thank you. Closed session. Do we have any public comment for closed session?
No, sir.
Mr. Scott, would you please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
We have three items on closed session. The first item is pending litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9A. The Commission will meet with the General Counsel and Chief Executive Officer related to pending litigation. And that's Hinojosa versus SBIAA. The second item is also pending litigation with the same Government Code, and that is the case of Franco versus SBIAA. And the third item is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. SBIAA Commission will meet with its designated representatives to discuss salaries, salary schedule and compensation, and fringe benefits payable to the following non-represented positions, and that is the position of Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you. We will adjourn to closed session and reconvene shortly.
I like these little holders. The little iPad holders.
Yeah, we will reconvene our meeting. And if I could have our legal counsel read us out of closed session, please.
Mr. Mayor, there were no reportable actions taken in closed session. Direction was given.
Thank you very much. Open up the regular session of the Airport Authority, and at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Sanchez to do the flag.
You can all stand, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, any items to be added or deleted on today's agenda?
No, sir.
Conflict of interest disclosures, any conflicts? Hearing none and seeing none, we move on to informational items. Mr. Burrows.
So we're going to start with one that was some good news that we didn't quite expect here. For those that recall, this was once Norton Air Force Base, and we went through several decades of work with our friends at the Air Force and the various resource agencies that have worked tirelessly to do not just environmental cleanup, but preparing the facility for transfer to your JPA here. And we've been asked over the years to apply for a Facility Excellent and Site Reuse Award that EPA gives out to federal facilities. This year, we got it. So we will be coordinating with your calendars in the coming weeks. They will be coming out with various teams from the resource agencies, including EPA, to have a ceremony, a formal ceremony to celebrate this award. And it's the first time Norton has gotten this accolade from our friends at EPA. So just wanted to make sure you're aware of the latest and greatest on that. Mr. Gibbs and I had a nice call with them today on the planning side, and as of right now, we're looking at hopefully sometime in the month of August. So we'll be back with you with potential dates and times. So, next update will be Mr. Cousineau on status of our accounting software transition. Mark?
Thank you, Mike. As of June 1st, we have successfully cut over from our old QuickBooks platform to Sage Intact. We have the purchasing and accounts payable modules implemented so far at this stage of the game. So we have now we're producing purchase requests as well as purchase orders. We actually had our first check run today, which means the invoice approval process has been working. So that far has been wonderful. Our great team of effort by our finance and purchasing people, Elka Chidasama, Reshma Rajan, Cindy Avalos, Sherry Nguyen, Chantal Carvalho, and Rebecca Potter. This is a much more complex and advanced system than what we formerly had. It has a far greater number of control points in it, and we are working on our next stage is get our order entry and accounts receivable modules up next. And then we will be inputting the fiscal year 24-25 budget into the new system upon approval by the commission. And with that, there will be several changes. This will be the last year that you will see this budget format used. We'll have a new one next year, as well as a new chart of accounts, a new accounting structure, and budgetary expense and expenditure control will change from a granular level at the line item up to a category level or class level, where we'll be managing budget by utilities versus by the line item accounts, electric, gas, so on and so forth. So that will reduce the number of budget adjustments coming to the commission, as well as give us a much better sense for planning as we go forward with these changes. And that concludes my report.
And that concludes our reports.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item H. These are commission consent items, items number 3 through 9.
Move for approval? Second.
Move for approval by Mayor Tran.
Oh,
Oh,
for
roll?
Supervisor
Roll,
Roll.
okay,
And I'll second.
thank you. Madam Clerk?
We have a motion by Member Rao and a second by Member Tran. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes?
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Tran?
Yes.
And Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to commission action items, I. Item 10 is consider and adopt the proposed budget adjustments for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. Mr. Mark Cosino, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a cleanup item. We took another run through our budget year-to-date in the last couple of weeks, and these are the cleanup items of accounts that were actually over a little bit their line item authority, as well as those that we expected to go over. And this is a net zero adjustment, and it's within the various funds and amongst their accounts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Other than that, that concludes my report, and we'd ask that you approve this item.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from commissioners? You have something to say?
I do not.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt item number 10.
So move. Second.
Supervisor moves, Mayor seconds. Madam Clerk, please.
We have a motion by Member Rao and a second by Member Tran. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes?
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Tran?
Yes.
And Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 11, this is to approve the form of an employment agreement with Michael Burrows to serve in the capacity of Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Scott Huber, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you all know, we just finished the evaluation of Mr. Burrows, and while this will not likely be news to him, following a positive evaluation, it is important to return and take a look at the employment agreement. His current employment agreement ends on June 30th of 2024. There is a proposed 2-year extension of his agreement. During the term of this agreement, as he has done previously, Mr. Burrows will oversee all administrative and operational matters for the airport. The proposed salary modification is, as you know, the salary is split between the two agencies, between 50% paid by IVDA and 50% paid by SBIAA, by the airport. It is proposed that Mr. Burrows receive a total increase of 5%, which would be equally portioned out, 2.5% to IVDA and 2.5% to be paid by the airport. Happy to answer any questions, but that's the recommendation of both IVDA and my recommendation following the review that we just had.
Thank you. Comments or questions from commissioners? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the form of an employment agreement with Mr. Michael Burrows to serve in the capacity of Chief Executive Officer.
Motion.
Mayor Tran? Councilmember Sanchez? Madam Clerk?
We have a motion by Member Tran and a second by Member Sanchez. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro,
Yes.
Member Rao,
Yes.
Member Lilburn,
Yes.
Member Tran,
Yes.
and Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate the comment. I just had a conversation with one of the alternate commission members. It is required to actually announce the amount, and it is blank in the agreement. It is after the increase, after the 5% increase that was just approved, the amount goes to $319,300. 319,300. So
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Mr. Hubert. Moving on to item number 12, approve a multi-year professional services agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, and the Wildlife Services for Wildlife Biologist Services from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2028, in an amount not to exceed $344,110. Mr. Galvan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The airport is required by the FAA to maintain a wildlife hazard management program for the safety of air carriers and general aviation aircraft operations on the airfield. One of those requirements is to have a wildlife biologist available to assist maintain said program. Last year, the Commission approved a one-year professional services agreement with the USDA for wildlife biologist services through a co-share agreement with another local Southern California airport. The item before you is to renew this agreement as a multi-year agreement through the end of June of 2028 for a total combined cost of $344,110. The per year cost breakdown is available for your review on pages 69 through 71 for your review. It is also noteworthy that the USDA is a government entity and cannot provide bids in a solicitation setting, and so they are the only bid that is provided for this agenda item. Staff recommends the Commission approve this item and all related documents, and I can take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Galvan. Comments or questions from commissioners of the presenter?
Move approval. Second.
Thank you. Supervisor moves, second by Mayor Tran. Madam Clerk?
We have a motion by Member Rao and a second by Member Tran. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro,
Yes.
Member Rao,
Yes.
Member Lilburn,
Yes.
Member Tran,
Yes.
and Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 13. This is to consider and adopt the San Bernardino International Airport Authority budget and related airport fee schedule and Loxvie Air SBD pricing policy for fiscal year 24-25. Mr. Cosino, please.
All right, thank you, Mayor. As usual, we will start our budget presentation with an overview of the structure of our financing. We start with a conservative approach. Kind of goes right with the airport. And with that, by that we mean we are not aggressive with our revenue estimates, and we are more than safe and with our expenditures proposed to ensure that we're not overreaching, but we have enough to meet our needs, not necessarily our wants. We take into consideration our unique economic and industry circumstances. We actively manage the budget throughout the year in revenue management. It includes periodic accounts receivable meetings with our property management team as well as with our finance team to look at what our receivables are. Our team at SBIAA does a fantastic job of trying to make sure all our land, all our buildings are being the highest and best use, and we're making full use of them through licenses and leases. And once again, we do keep track of this in quarterly budget to actual updates. We also follow those up with monthly budget to actual updates that we share with our management team and do inquiries as to which accounts are looking like they're running ahead of their budget or maybe going over to get their feedback. Next slide, please. We typically get our money from or revenues from intergovernmental revenue sources, lease revenues, and other income sources, and as well as bond and other debt proceeds. So that becomes the fiscal resources that then flow into our property management fund, our fixed base operator fund, which is Luxaver SBD, the general fund, debt service fund, and our capital projects fund. Bears mentioning we use the word fund here, but SBIAA is an enterprise, so in actuality regarding financial reporting, it is a single fund. These are not broken out as actual separate funds, but they do help us to run our operations efficiently and effectively. Next slide, please. Our annual budget structure shows these sources. Beginning cash is a little over $7.4 million. We have $20,694,000 that'll be coming into the general fund. Property management will be generating $14 million, a little over that. Capital projects fund, another $10 million, and our debt service fund, $700,000 this year will be coming into there, as well as our FBO at $105 million. Bears mentioning that the FBO, that $105 million, is actually what we expect to receive in fuel sales, which will then also be offset by almost a very equivalent amount of cost of goods sold for those fuel commodities. So you'll see that in the next slide. I think we're missing a slide, but we'll go ahead. A general use general fund uses by activity. The largest use is in the administrative area. That's $6.3 million. Large pieces of that are because we house a lot of our larger accounts in there that are then allocated, or may or may not be allocated out to different departments and functions. Two examples I can think off the top of my head is our insurance is paid out of this administrative account. Our payroll is paid out of this administrative, and so those are large that really make that look quite large, but it's not all just administrative activities. It includes those, like I said, the expenditures for the entire airport. Airfield operations, we're looking at $2.9 million this year. Airfield maintenance, almost $2 million. Security operations will be looking at about $1.5 million. ARF, which is our Air Force, yes, thank you, rescue firefighting, will actually showing at 1.2 million. We actually expect that to be closer to 1.5 million or higher. We are in the process of negotiating our annual contract. We had some changes flow up this year in that area, where a change in methodologies, which we are currently inquiring as to those changes, and probably will challenge there. Facility maintenance, we're looking at $1.2 million. Vehicle and equipment maintenance, almost $860,000. Terminal and parking operations, $2.5 million. International arrivals terminal, we're looking at approximately $672,000 being consumed there. And then marketing the airport and Luxaver, we're looking at $1,346,000 in advertising, marketing, and promotions. Noise and community outreach, $75,000. Control tower operations, almost $700,000. Network services, which is our fiber optic and communications that we provide on the old Norton Air Force Base campus, as well as within the airfield. We're looking at that as, like I said, $74,000. And finally, badging operations will be $338,000 to ensure that employees, as well as our employers and their employees, are properly badged to be on the airport. And then next slide, final slide. As I mentioned earlier, in conclusion, we try to be very realistic about our revenue timing and the amounts when they're going to come in. We seek appropriations for the needs of the airports versus just putting amounts down because we want it. We challenge our staff to come up and ideally list the equipment, the machines they want, why they want positions, and so forth when we're doing that. Revenue cycle management, and then as we mentioned earlier, we have a fairly active budget monitoring process that has those budget updates. And the one part I forget about the budget updates is we do 3 of those a year at a minimum with the Finance and Budget Committee, and those are typically held at the close of the first quarter, close of the second quarter, and close of the third quarter before we roll into budget season. And that concludes the budgetary structure, fiscal structure of the budget. Going to page 81, customarily I run through this on the budget to actual. It also has the proposed budget on the far right column. I will highlight those accounts that I feel are significant, either dollar-wise or that they kind of show the activity and what's happening at the airport. With that, starting on account 40100, fuel flowage fees, we're at 78% of 92% fiscal year to date, and we are projecting slightly less, $540,000 less for the upcoming budget year than we budgeted for this fiscal year. We expect fuel flowage fees to level over time. We're not in our steep growth curve anymore as far as fuel flowage. The denominator of our volume is making it harder to get large growth numbers, but we do anticipate about 2 million additional gallons to be sold this year, and we get paid 11 cents for every gallon that is sold that flows onto the airport. The general fund overall has been favorable for this fiscal year as revenues exceed expenses. And we'll move to account 40200, landing fees. Year over year, we have a favorable trend. Landing fees have been increasing dramatically over the last 3 years. We anticipate $1.7 million in landing fees for the upcoming year to be coming in. Network services, account 40400. For fiscal year 24-25, we're looking at $100,000 less. That is primarily because we are actually seeing competition in the market, and overall communication services are dropping. So we're dropping to actually meet that, even though the volume of our activity is going up in network services. Filming revenues, account 41150. We're at 96% of our 92% fiscal year to date for the 11 months ended 5/31. Next year, we're predicting an additional $80,000 in revenues from that. That'll be a 33% increase. We're continuing to see demand to use our facilities for filming. Could be movies, shows, as well as commercials. So that is still showing that is occurring on a regular basis. Account 41160, special event revenue. We are showing $175,000. That is a $85,000 increase over last year, about a 94% increase, and that is we're planning to have more successful events, and the events we will have will continue to increase in their revenue production. Account 41170, permit fees. That it will be $405,000 for the upcoming year. That is another area where we performed very well. We're at almost 100% of budget for the 23-24 fiscal year to date. Increased activities comes partly from what we call our commercial operating permits, and some of our tenants use outside services, and those outside services then pay us 7% of the revenue they generate on the airport. So those particular numbers, why that one is growing. Badging revenue, account 41180. That is 224% performance this year over the fiscal year to date. We anticipate another 133% increase in badging revenues to bring that up to $70,000 for the next fiscal year. And I think that reflects the continued employer growth and activity at the airport, as well as probably some turnover at the tenants who are actually employed or employ people at the airport. Still on page 81, going to the transfers in or out. Where am I? Transfers from, transfers in, I apologize. Account 41400, 41450, 41460. We are anticipating a 10.6% increase of $13.5 million coming in from those other funds into the general fund. And that will then provide the source to be able to pay for staff as well as all the other expenses within that account. Moving to account 41900, grant revenue, FAA. This $610,000 item is a new item. It's in anticipation of receiving a federal grant to support what we hope will be radar at SBD International Airport. Moving to the expenditures, account 50000, salaries and wages. We are running favorably on this account. We're at 86.4% of 92% fiscal year to date. This account also includes all employee benefits, and we anticipate a 7.8% increase next year to $7.48 million. That increase captures step increases, benefit cost increases, equity and market adjustments, as well as possible one or two new positions that may occur at that time as needed. Account 50015, Airport Law Enforcement. This one we're predicting a 10% increase, and that's just from an increased unit cost of services provided by the City of San Bernardino Police Department, rising from their normal increases in their labor MOUs. Account 50100, salaries reimbursed to IVDA. These are salaries that SBIAA reimburses IVDA for all its risk management, HR, finance, property development, clerk of the board, all the administrative activities that are carried out at IVDA and provided to SBIAA. So that is their share of labor costs for that. Account 50281, maintenance and repairs. We're looking at $170,000, a decrease of 27%. I think this is in part because we've moved some of these expenditures to another account, which you will see in a couple more line items after I talk about that. The other thing to reflect on here is that we only are 47% of 92% fiscal year to date, so we've underspent in this category, or hadn't had the need to spend those funds. Account 50290, advertising. We are looking at an $801,000 budget, a 19% increase, about $127,000 increase, which reflects trends and known conditions as we continue to advertise and market the airport and its facilities and the FBO. Account 50325, supplies, repairs, and maintenance. This is going to be a budget for $668,000, a 59% increase, which is, we think, partially distorted by the number of mid-year adjustments we made in this account. So we've lost track of what the original budget was. Our current system does not allow us to sit there and keep the original budget and then have the adjusted budget. So that's one of the reasons we want to change the budgeting methodology, and the new Sage and tax system actually allows us to be able to continue to see the original budget and the adjusted budget, and then ultimately the final budget. And I am on page 82. Account 50340, insurance. We are anticipating $683,250 in the general fund. I heard some good news that we might very likely be reducing this by about $70,000 as we received a late quote for vehicle coverage. But this generally reflects the overall hardening of the insurance market as well as our experience, and we continue to work hard to get the best priced insurance that we can. Account 50345, workers' compensation insurance. This is a 49% increase, $225,000 of that. This is still continuing hardening of the market to some degree. It reflects our loss experience. And I think we have done some allocations as we've gotten better with our going through our labor budget and allocating these costs out. So this is partly reflected in that and being lowered some other places. Account 50370, education and training. This budget is $121,700. It's a 113% increase, which is a $67,000 increase. These are cost increases for training and education, professional licenses, certifications, continuing education is in this. What we have done this year, working with our purchasing team, has gone out and really pushed our staff to identify specific trainings that they have. This is also partially driven the increase by the fact that we keep on acquiring software that requires us to actually attend training conferences or training seminars to attend this. And those registration costs can get fairly expensive for some of these. Account 50372, meetings and conferences. This is $122,500, a 12% increase. I'd say that's pretty much just the cost of doing business in the supply chain and what we're seeing overall with the cost of venues and everything to attend these conferences, primarily registration fees. Account 50375, software. The budget for this year is $257,000. That is a 16% increase. That is coming because of our new accounting information system, Sage. We continue to add employees and still incur costs with our Paylocity, our human resources management information system, as well as we have some operational software subscriptions that come into this account, as well as the host of other small software subscriptions that the airport uses in its various functions. Account 50410, electric. We are budgeting $561,000 here. That's a 15% increase. That's obviously because of rates. It's also because of increased terminal usage, as well as our aging of photovoltaic systems are not quite generating as much offset as they used to. Still on page 82, account 50415, janitorial. We have that at $260,200. We are anticipating an increase because we are going out for proposals as we've coming close to exhausting the approved contract limit with about a year left on it anyway. So we're going to go out for proposals and come back, and we're expecting price increases. We have better information going forward to what it's going to cost to keep the terminals looking good, because those when we started this contract, we didn't have the terminals.
The chair.
Yes.
If we can, maybe if the board has some questions on any particular line items, instead of going line item by line item, you think maybe that would be more prudent use
Sure.
of our time? Would that be okay with the rest of the board?
Seems like it would be.
Yep, I concur.
If I could just start off with one thing, if we can go back to that very first page where it broke it down into the big tranches of money, I think under administration, you said a lot of the airport operations are funneled through administration. If we can go back to that page, I can't find it.
It's page 79.
Yeah, I think it's like the previous page, the one right before that, I think. Is that the one? Yeah, there you go. So administration, and you said that a lot of, oh, no.
So salaries and wages are in there?
Yeah, so salaries and wages, and typically with the city, we put our operations would be separately. So you're saying a lot of the airfield operations are in the administration tranche?
There's some of the airfield operations, but we carry almost all the salaries and benefits in the general fund in administration.
Okay.
It's not broken out because with QuickBooks,
Yeah.
if you looked at all our subclasses, if you will, or sub-funds, they are a combination of fund, department, and cost center.
Okay.
And that system did not allow us to get granular and actually allocate labor and benefits out to departments where we could then be able to pull them up. So they're primarily held all at the administrative level.
The administrative level. But you
So
said
we
some-
do have some in property management, but it's very little.
Oh, okay. But you said some of the, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but some of the airfield operations was tied into administration, right?
Well,
Administrative.
So we have employees in airfield operations. So you
Oh,
have your
I see,
maintenance
I see, I
employees,
see.
you have
Okay.
your airport
I
operations
see. Now I
employees.
get it. Okay. It's
They're
on the
carried-
personnel matter side. Okay, all right. That was the only question I've had so far.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I may,
Penny?
if I may. Scott, you do a great job when we meet quarterly with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee. So I noticed, and if there's an overage in the budget or an underage, you point it out. But I notice on this budget right here, there's a number of line items that are higher than we budgeted for last year. Can we absorb those, like just alone 300,000 with our insurance? Can we absorb those and sustain those? And what are we doing for
So-
a contingency?
So this, it's not so much a contingency. Our contingencies would be if we sit there and start exhausting our budget, we're going to cut back on our expenditures, is primarily what it's going to be. And whether that means it's services and supplies, or if it were to be drastic, it would be personnel. That's what we would begin to do. That would be the contingency. As far as our ability to do that, that's why we look at the cash resources on hand. We look at the revenues and transfers that are coming into the organization. That then becomes the total resources that we're going to apply and have available to then fund the expenditures. All the expenditures we're proposing are below what we have in fiscal resources to
Okay.
support the operation for the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, nobody else?
I will move to approve the budget.
A motion by Councilmember Sanchez to approve the budget. Chair will entertain a second.
Second.
Second by Supervisor. Madam Clerk?
We have a motion by Member Sanchez and a second by Member Rao. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Tran?
Yes.
And Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 14. Approve certain professional services agreements for fiscal year 24-25. Mr. Cosino, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a schedule of proposed professional services agreements that consist of our continuing specialists that are highly specialized and have worked with the agency over a number of years and have a great deal of personal experience with the airport's operations. Some of these are like our audit function. They have a very defined scope. Many of the others are time and materials based on either small ongoing projects we have going or ones that may come up. And with that, if you would have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Other than that, we'd ask for your approval.
Comments or questions on item number 14 from council commissioners?
I do. How often do we go out for competitive bids for these types of services within these?
For audit services and some of those other ones where there's really a defined scope, we go out every 5 years. The other ones, it's not so much that we're going out to services. For construction contracts, we go out for bid. But these are typically not posted out. we will sit there and sometimes put these contracts out based on the fact that we know that this particular vendor has the knowledge in this area, has the resources available in this area. They're typically not very large to sit there and go out and do that, so we're kind of balancing the resources that are available close to us that are going to have reduced travel costs, portal costs, as well as that specialized knowledge, because it doesn't make much sense to go out and hire an engineer to come in and relook at somebody else's work to then continue with the continuation of the project. And the one that comes to mind is anything we have on the airfield. We have engineers that have been out there for years, maybe a different set, doing a different piece, but they're the ones that understand that airport and they don't have to refamiliarize. So we think we're getting good competitive value for that. And Mike, you probably have a perspective on that as well.
Yeah, and obviously, as you do with your agencies, if it's a grant-funded project, it's mandated we go out per project on that, so none of these folks would be eligible to bid on those particular contracts on the competitive solicitation. So Mr. Gibbs and Jonathan currently have a solicitation out there right now for what we call our 5-year engineer of record for the FAA projects. And so that's an example of where obviously we do go out on a regular basis. But the other situation that arises is sometimes we have a unique project, like a hydrogen opportunity, for instance, where we've got to go grab specialized services. So we typically will go out and get quotes for that on a case-by-case basis. These are more recurring services that we may need, some of which we don't use, throughout the course of the year, but most of these are in case we do need them. So hopefully that helps.
I'll move for approval.
Supervisor, I think you and I are on the same wavelength. I was thinking the same thing. Most of these are most of these are professional services. I'd say at least half of these are marketing. For example, Aviatrix Communication. How long is our contract with them? They're our professional contract with them.
It goes year to year.
Year to year? So every year it comes back for approval? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's the longest ones we have and what are the shortest ones we have? I'm assuming the shortest ones are a year. What are the
all of these are 1-year contracts.
Oh, they're all one-year contracts.
They're only 1-year contracts.
Okay.
And they're 30-day terminable by either party.
Well, there you go. Now I think there's a difference. So we have a 1-year contract, but then we have options to extend. So sometimes we have contracts
so if there's
where after the end of the contract we go back out to bid, and then, but some of these, Mead and Hunt, for example, we've been in contract with them for 5 years.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's a 5-year contract or a 1-year contract with 4 options to extend a year, it's still kind of the same deal. I'd like to know how often we are, and for lack of a better term, kind of keeping them on their toes and making sure that they don't just fall asleep because they know that their contract will go on for year after year after year for years.
Yeah. So again, they're annual contracts, no options. What we're talking about here, these are 1-year agreements, and they're evaluated every year. So if they're not performing, if we don't need the service, they're not coming back on this list.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
so Mead and Hunt's an air service development consultant. Obviously, we have air service. They were integral in getting us to that stage and currently maintaining that, and hopefully adding to the service.
Yeah, I don't mean to pick on them. I'm just kind of going through ones that I've seen for years, and so I guess we can always really take a look.
Sure.
When we approve these contracts, I just want to make sure that we're not just sending money out there and they have fallen asleep at the
and they don't get paid unless we call them.
Okay. Yeah. But I see these are all at not to exceed amounts. Okay. Thank you. Second.
Motion by Supervisor. Second by Sanchez.
We have a motion by Member Rao and a second by Member Sanchez. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro?
Yes.
Member Rao?
Yes.
Member Lilburn?
Yes.
Member Tran?
Yes.
And Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 15, the review of status of the action plan for the San Bernardino International Airport. I think I have a couple of commissioners.
I think we're going to lose our quorum here. We're backing up to the San Bernardino Council meeting, and I have another engagement.
I just want to say thank you for our budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one, when we get to comments, I have a question.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any added or deferred items?
No, sir.
Any public comment?
No, sir.
Commission member comments, please. Supervisor.
So I know we moved this for Councilmember Rigsby to accommodate his work schedule, and if we're backing up to council meetings and other things that we have going on, would the commission consider a future agenda item to move this back to a 3 o'clock?
I second that. Yes.
It's really tough. And I mean, we don't,
Yes.
I don't want to pick on him while he's not here, but,
It's at the pleasure of the commission.
okay.
We
Future
can put-
agenda item. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, there being no other business to attend to for the International Airport Authority, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Mike, make a note on that.